You get it?
I don't know. I wish I could have seen their faces.
This is an amazing story that so few people know about that was swept under the carpet for 60 years.
There are plenty of other photos taken that day, but none anybody wanted to see. The right picture can win or lose a war.
It's far greater than any sort of fiction that you could ever read.
Okay, let's do it again.
Clint is able in his movies to do this thing where he both makes a great war movie and he kind of deconstructs the idea of a war movie.
This is primarily a British operation. I'm an American. I don't even know why the hell I'm here.
Lieutenant, you're here because you're an American.
When he gets into a project, and he's just completely involved with all the details of the research. And so, you know, it's pretty good we have Clint Eastwood being a researcher.
And then you look back and say, oh, there they go. Yeah.
That's the great thing about Clint Eastwood. He wants to make sure it looks 100% authentic and real, and it feels like it's World War II, and it did.
Clint Eastwood's diverse career includes dramas, action films, westerns, and even a musical. But no stories are closer to his heart than those that portray the plight of a soldier in wartime. His dedication to authenticity inspires his collaborators.
It was an incredible experience to be able to do this with him. I mean, if you ask me who the ideal director is, you want Clint Eastwood, because Clint just had a great way of casting people that understood the responsibility.
How you doing? You okay? Oh, shit, it's good to see you.
You're my hero, bro. Yeah, you always have been.
Let's go, Kyle! Colonel's waiting!
The legend, huh?
What happened? You all right?
I'm just tired, man. I'm going home.
I'm proud of you.
Everybody felt so honored to be there to do service to SEAL Team 3. They took it very seriously, and they just wanted to get it right.
Lieutenant, in the next 15 minutes, we have to create enough confusion to get out of here alive.
Major, right now you got me about as confused as I ever hoped to be.
Eastwood's history with war movies dates back to the earliest days of his film career, when he was cast opposite a cinema legend.
I'd never done a picture with well-known people in it. And Richard Burton was going to be in the thing, and my agent thought, oh, God, it'll be you and Richard Burton, it'll be a thing. So I went to Austria, and so I met Richard Burton, who was with Elizabeth Taylor at that time, and they all invited me up to cocktails, of which they were more accustomed to than I was. Austria was very cold. We shot it in the wintertime, but Austria was great. Great food, a lot of good Austrian beer. And with Richard, you had to stop quite a few times in the picture.
We'll try this one behind us.
We'd be driving along to go somewhere, and he'd say, there's a nice little hostel down here that has great brandy or something like that. So he had to stop, and it was interesting.
Cognac.
Make that two. Certainly unusual wearing war uniforms as opposed to ponchos and Stetsons and so forth. We've been up in the mountains shooting from cable cars and hanging from cables and sliding off the roofs and shooting Germans. You thought I shot a lot of people with a six-shooter. You should see how we can do with a machine gun in a film like this.
I think it's very apt casting to cast Clint Eastwood and myself because we're such enormous contrasts in type. He's tall and slow and drawly, sort of a la Gary Cooper, and as good as Gary Cooper, perhaps even better. And I'm short and thick and fast-talking.
Was that it, Major?
Yes, that's it, Lieutenant.
Do me a favor, will you? Next time you have one of these things, keep it an all-British operation.
Eastwood's early education in war films continued when he was cast in Kelly's Heroes, alongside another group of veteran performers.
We had Don Rickles on the picture, who was constantly entertaining.
I got a little favor to ask of you. Will you stop crying? I haven't even asked you yet. The hell's the matter with you?
We had a crew of Austrians, we had a crew of English, We had a crew that had Americans, and he would do skits every morning. He'd do a thing, and he'd insult every one of those groups I just mentioned. And everybody was lying on the floor laughing, so it was a kind of an interesting picture.
This is, of course, ladies and gentlemen, Clint Eastwood, a wonderful star. Clint, we've been on the picture now with you about 2 days, and I want to say, on behalf of the whole cast, Clint, we're fed up. You don't know this, Clint started out in Rawhide. He was the one that kept saying, yaha, yaha. And a producer one day said, get the dumbbell that's yelling yaha. Then he met Brian Hutton, our 9-year-old director, who is not here today, unfortunately.
Then at the end, after he'd insulted all these people, he'd insult some Austrian people who, you know, didn't quite know what they were hearing, and they kind of laugh like,
What do we do now? Pick up our equipment and get out of here before a German patrol comes along. Oh, that's great.
As his career progressed, Eastwood moved behind the camera, where his war films became a canvas for powerful personal stories of honor, commitment, and patriotism.
Look at that.
No wartime image in American history surpasses the photograph captured by AP photographer Joe Rosenthal of the raising of the flag on Iwo Jima. The film inspired by that image came to Eastwood through another director with a long history of war films.
We were both talking with our tuxedos on backstage after an award ceremony, and Clint said, I hear you've got this book called Flags of Our Fathers. Really an interesting book. I read it. And I believe I said, yeah, I haven't quite been able to crack it. I haven't quite gotten an adaptation to a screenplay that I'm happy with yet. Do you want to take a crack at it? He said, yes, send it over.
The flag raising, of course, and the famous photograph became the most important photograph of World War II.
The power of the image was not lost on a teenage paperboy living in Sacramento.
I was 11 years old when World War II broke out, and it was in every newspaper that I saw. I delivered newspapers, and it just sort of symbolized the war effort. It was the biggest battle in Marine Corps history. More casualties and more medals of honor given out in that battle than any other battle in history.
To bring the gritty reality of war to the screen, Eastwood avoided over-rehearsing his actors prior to battle scenes.
It was Clint's idea from the beginning to have us not prepared, to have it be very much like it would be on the battlefield. All of these young men just sort of thrown into uniform and be ambushed as they were. What a hell of an experience.
I had never seen anything like that, where things are exploding all around you. I'd look to my left and see a line of 500 Marines firing guns. I mean, it was so immersive. Your adrenaline and your emotion is kicked in. You can't help but be affected by that environment.
Go! Go on!
You were caught off guard constantly, and your reactions were very real.
Action!
Once action was called and you were running through the field, it was electric. You really didn't have to act, you just had to be there and live it.
Stop. Stop.
When the time came to recreate an indelible moment of American history, the actors needed no prompting to feel the gravity of the moment.
Shooting the flag raising scene was really incredible. The night before, we all sat in our hotel rooms and we just watched it over and over, watching exactly what our guys did. Like, I noticed that Franklin, for some reason, he puts it up and he looks down in his hand twice. And nobody has any idea why he does it, and I don't think anybody really would have noticed if you hadn't seen it like 75 or 80 times.
It was a really emotionally charged day. You could sense this sort of palpable energy in the crew and the rest of the cast of something very special was happening.
And then we just did it, and for some reason when we did it, it happened like it happened. It's just kind of what happened. Mike's hand fell right over mine. Ira's hands went up in the way that they went up. It was really an incredible moment, I think, for everybody.
It's a monumental moment, and we raise the flag, and then literally the whole island just explodes in cheers, and parades and the ships off the island all, you know, hug their horns and stuff, and, you know, the Marines all over the rest of the island throw out their rifles, and they felt like they'd won the battle for Iwo Jima.
To see that flag fluttering in the wind and everything being choreographed down to the exact nuance of how it happened, Clint told us that we'd done a great job, and that was rare for him to express that kind of emotion with us, and so it was a good day.
Jeez, look at that.
For his young cast, Flags of Our Fathers would become an unforgettable experience.
I will never look at the flag the same way again. I will never think of war the same way again. And if anyone kind of romanticizes the idea of war, boy, this project in particular will change that viewpoint, I think. Yeah, I'm very proud to be part of something like this.
The movie completely honors these young Marines and the people who sacrifice so much for war, but it also says in a very unapologetic way that, you know, war is hell, first and foremost.
Move on! Mike! Mike, can you hear us?
To be able to explore what these guys did and what they went through, I will walk away with having had one of the most incredible experiences of my life.
Something that always stuck with me throughout filming the movie as well was the wars are always fought by the boys, you know, the boys, and he makes a point of that at the end of the film, and we're all running around, and we're all just splashing around in the surf, you know, just being what we are.
As he was shooting Flags of Our Fathers, Eastwood found himself wondering about the plight of the men on the other side of the battlefield.
In the middle of Flags of Our Fathers, he came to me one day and he said, I'd like to talk to you about an idea I just had. I'd like to also tell the story of Iwo Jima from the Japanese point of view. I want to tell the story of Kobayashi, the general who was defending Iwo.
While I was still putting Flags of Our Fathers together, I went off and shot letters from Iwo Jima.
軍と連携を取っていないのか。海軍の軍機では敵上陸まで。これ本物の戦なんですよ。分かってますよね。
I became curious about General Kobayashi, especially when American generals were saying he was one of the smartest generals on the island. So I figured, what was so smart about him? So I went back and started reading a book, and the only book available was a book on some letters that he had written home to his family while he was an envoy here in the United States in 1928 and 30.
休んじて国に準ずるべし。世は常に諸子の先頭にあり。
He was so interesting man, and he had studied in United States and Canada, and he totally understood about American feelings and culture and customs. He sent 41 letters from this island, and so it's a very family man.
In his letters home, he was concerned about his kids, and I just found a very sensitive man with the exact same concerns that I have or any father has. You break it down to coming from the different walks of life and how it's a life interrupted, just as it was for the Americans.
抵抗しなければあっという間に海岸を取られてしまう。
浜を埋め尽くすまで待て。行きましょう。攻撃開始。
Eastwood's decision to make 2 films rather than 1 enabled him to illuminate common ground shared by soldiers on both sides.
Knowing he was with you that day and seeing him in that photograph, I don't know why it makes me feel better, but it does. It's so silly, isn't it?
No, it's not. When you boil it down to the emotions of the people, they're dealing with the same thing. You're dealing with a young man who is conscripted to be sent over to Iwo Jima, knowing that the odds of him getting back are going to be really remote, and then finally believing he's never going to get back.
私の兵をむやみに殺してもらいたくないな。刀を下ろしなさい。下ろしなさい!
I think what Clint is doing in telling the Japanese side of this story is revolutionary. I think it's been something that is long overdue.
I must say I had a great time doing it because to visit another culture and do it in another language, it was great to look at the same battle the same war from two different perspectives. It all boils down to young men being sent off to end their lives prematurely, no matter what side you're on.
I can't take them calling me a hero. All I did was try not to get shot. Mike was a hero.